Okay, welcome to Lifeline WA. What we're trying to do here, we've got a couple of themes where we're talking about issues in the mental health space. And today I've got a very special guest, Leon Rory. He's done some fabulous work with Haka Life, and he's been through some phenomenal situations. And we're going to talk to him about FIFO work. Leon, how are you going?
Hoggy, I'm good, brother. Great to be here. Great to be a part of something incredible that Lifeline's doing, bro. It's always good. And to have a conversation about FIFO is even a bonus, man.
All right. Before we get to FIFO, something that people don't know about you that are probably listening now is that you came over from New Zealand to follow a rugby league dream. How did that go?
Yeah, look, I came over in 1994 to Perth and played for the Western Reds in 95, and I was picked in their 96 squad as well. The Western Reds, the former NRL rugby league side that was here in Perth, and followed that dream and then got cut with Super League. There was a big Super League war and battle, and so I ended up north working in Karratha in the Pilbara area for 18 months, and then I got a phone call from an old coach of mine that had coached me at the Reds to go and play rugby league over in Sydney. I wanted to still chase the dream. My dream was to be an NRL rugby league player, and that's all I thought about doing and being in life. And so I moved over to Sydney to chase that. Ultimately, it ended up in heartbreak for me, mate, because I ended up injured and the dream was over. So I was sort of washed up by 24 years of age with no plan B.
Rightio. So you had no plan B. You're washed up. What made you go into FIFO work then?
Well, I'd had a divorce, mate. I'd been through a really messy and toxic separation. I have 4 children. I've divvied up all of the goods out of the divorce, and I needed to re-establish myself financially. I mean, I had child support to pay, and then the work that I had in the city, in the metropolitan area, wasn't really able to survive. So I applied for a job.
So when you went into FIFO work, did you go in there with a specific goal, or you just thought, right, this is just good money, I'm going to go and do it?
Yeah, I did have a goal to start with. That was to establish myself, get myself ahead, make sure that I could look after all my financial commitments, but also at the same time, I wasn't really clear on what I wanted to do or what I wanted to be as well. But I was just so grateful to get that opportunity, and I thought I'd just play it as it comes to me, sort of deal. And looking back, it probably wasn't a strong structure and an effective structure for me, because I think it's important that we have goals. But I just went up there and I just thought, I'll play it as I see it, and we'll see how we go and move forward from there.
While you were up there, because FIFO work, you're in and out, and then you've got your family commitments out home. How much pressure was it, or how hard was it being away from your family, and how much time did you actually spend with your kids when you got back?
Yeah, good question, man. I look, initially as a new starter going up into the FIFO and entering the FIFO space for the first time, I was a bit like a fish in a big pond, and there was lots of things to discover, lots of things that I didn't know about, lots of the way that they do things. The safety culture up there was something that I had to learn and learn quickly to be able to be connected to that. And then in traversing that, I was on a 26-9 roster where we were doing that up there at Barrow Island. And it became pretty challenging over time. Like I said, as a new starter, I wasn't really fully connected to the cycles of the swing and how that impacts my well-being, all my relationships. So I was a little bit green. But then over time, I realised that when I was getting back from work, because of the fact that you have to stay so focused and switched into making sure that you're safe all the time, and the expectations on the job and the whole nature of the culture that can exist sometimes in FIFO. When I got home, I was quite drained. And then I had the divorce, so I had a situation where my children were living with their mum, and so I'm a father that's away and having to get field phone calls about the kids playing up or things that are going on for my children at home. So that was definitely a new challenge, in the fact that I felt powerless because I wasn't children at all, to be able to physically sort of address some of the things that they were going through. And then I had a relationship. I was in a relationship with my girlfriend that I'd met in the FIFO industry. And that was a challenge too, because of the fact that when I'm away and we're working together, when we come back, naturally you want your time together as a couple. But for me, I had children, so I felt a bit like the piggy in the middle to some degrees, where you're trying to manage your stuff with your children and your commitment and your relationship there, and then you're trying to connect with your girlfriend to keep her happy, which is right for you, or your new partner. And then the stuff that I have to also manage with the ex-wife, and that wasn't always the best situation. So quite often, the emotions were up and down, and I started to realize pretty quickly that it was having an impact on me, being away. So it was all a new discovery, man. But something that I found out that a lot of my work colleagues could relate to that were in that situation. And then, there comes challenges even with having a relationship on site as well, and managing those sorts of things. And these are things that happen in the industry and people can relate to. So it was definitely, a learning experience. And in some manners, I wasn't equipped to being exposed to those sorts of not only working conditions, but also to manage life outside of my home or disconnected from my children. It was really a hard discovery in some ways.
So when you're up there on the mine site, what resources are there to actually help these people? Because from the experience that small experience that I've gone up there and travelled, they're working 12-hour shifts, and then they come back to their hut, and they're just all worn out. They go and eat. They can go and have a few drinks at some of the mine sites that I've been to. There's some gyms there, but people just are so worn out, they don't get active, and they don't go and seek these resources. What resources and how can we help these people get through these tough situations?
Yeah, look, those camp facilities are definitely there. The need for the gyms that are there, the field where you can go and exercise. There's some of them have squash courts and whatnot, basketball courts and different things. Some of them have pools that are available. So those are sort of a standard thing that you see in the FIFO setup. For onshore people anyway. Offshore is a little bit different, but for those people in camps and all that sort of stuff, those are definitely available. A lot of it had to do with conversations that you'd end up just having with your crew and your workmates. And for me, I had a partner there, so I was able to talk to her at times. But even that's a challenge, man, when your relationships, under strain for those people that have got, in relationships on sites and that now, they'll know what I mean. And when that's in breakdown, then you really got no one to talk to, or you might find yourself down at the wet mess having a few drinks and sort of get into a pattern, and sometimes they can be unhealthy ones. But what I did work out was that there's a formula to the way that you do your swings, and I learned over time and in my experience that doing the same thing each and every swing wasn't always the most effective thing for me. Sometimes it was going to the gym for the whole swing, for one particular swing. Other times it was just staying in my room, you disengage. Other times it was actually going to the wet mess, going to the gym, connecting with friends. So there was a whole lot of things that I learned being in the FIFO space, that you've really got to find the right formula for you. But ultimately, the biggest thing I believe is the culture of your crew. You're with those people for extended periods of times, for long periods of times. They're people that have normally got things going on at home, that they're in exactly the same boat as I was, where they're trying to manage things. And depending on what it is, it can be a hard place to be able to work and to be able to control your emotions. So it's definitely a challenge, but culture is everything in that environment.
You brought up two good things there: culture and disconnected. First point, disconnection, because you're disconnected from your family. And a lot of the people, when I got on a plane, or when I do get on the planes, everyone seems disconnected on the plane going up to the mine site as well. And if you're disconnected when you're sitting in your room there, it just creates extra havoc, extra strain, and that will go into the workforce. How can they create an environment where you limit the disconnection, both with family and on the workforce?
Yeah, great question, man. There's a few things to be able to do that. Look, ultimately, there's a knowing from the workers in the industry, and culture is everything. The ability for people to be able to express what's going on for them is so important. One of the challenges that we see in FIFO, and it was certainly there for me, is that you put a face on. You're disconnected. Some of those people that you see on the plane and that are coming back to site. Some of their relationships are in breakdown. They've got addictions. They've got lost loved ones. They might be in financial ruin. All of these things that they're bringing up to site, and immediately you're getting conditioned. You put your headphones on the plane, and you're sort of getting yourself prepared. But even that starts a couple of days out before you fly back from your swing, because you've got to get tuned back into work. We've got to have more conversations in the workplace, is how we disappear that disconnection. We've got to have the ability for people to be able to talk frankly and create more of those things, as opposed to be process driven. I've seen a direct correlation between people's well-being and the output of production. And, I mean, people's production is directly impacted by their well-being. How we feel and the way that we show up is going to really, it's really a reflection of the way that we're going to perform to some degree. So there's things. I think the great thing about the FIFO industry, especially with their commitment to safety, and if you're not committed to safety, you're on a hiding to nothing. So, pretty quickly, a lot of people understand that safety is paramount, and they'll adopt, the strategy to be safe and to keep safe. And people's commitment to safety and to keeping it, to where it should be, where there's no accidents or incidents, or they can minimize that, is directly related to their well-being. So if they're coming up to site, and this is my own experience of myself, when I had my mind on things at home and things that were going on emotionally, I just wasn't switched on site, and I'd have incidents in that, or near misses and things that everybody relates to. But we do think that there's an opportunity for the industry to open that up, to create safe conversations and get to people behind the uniform and behind the shirt, whoever they work for, and so that we can start having people trust that they can share things, because we're just seeing that it's too hard for people to maintain this facade that everything's okay and that we're just going to keep functioning. So if they're able to build strong cultures and strong coping mechanisms inside of the workplace and strong foundations, those are the type of things, and they're powerful enough, they'll take those back home. If they can start impacting the home life in the same manner in which they approach some of their, addictions or anything that's going on for a lot of people that they don't display at work, they can carry those traits and those values into their home life, then I truly believe that all around, that's going to have a sort of go in a big circle, and it'll have them looking at the way that they're doing life at home, which then transforms into the workplace, and it's got to be a positive thing. So that's, for me, that's what I see as the opportunity for them to disappear the disconnection that shows up in the workplace.
What you're trying to say there is they're safe physically in the mine site, but not safe mentally. What I'm probably bringing up here is, I know with sport teams that I've been involved with, the ones where you can express your vulnerability and everyone expresses their vulnerability, from the leader to the person that's just filling up the numbers out the bottom. As soon as you get that culture where you can express the vulnerability, it creates that safe space. So when you go across to the mine site, if you're in a bad mindset while you go up there, you're going to be in a bad mindset for the whole time. And then you leave the mine site, you're already in a negative mindset going home. So we've got to change that mindset. We've got to change the environment so that everyone expresses their vulnerability, everyone's happy, everyone's getting on, because as it grows up, builds up in your system, it just affects every relationship that you're in. So how can your team change their culture to help the families at home?
Yeah, great point. And look, and the impact too, or the effect of people going back to site a particular way, can be a direct connection to the culture that's there. I mean, that's certainly something that I believe that we've got to adapt and change. Our commitment to the sort of machinery and the type of tools that are used in the workplace have totally transformed. The sort of software, that we're moving into a place and a space where they're using state-of-the-art sort of machinery and tools and computers and everything. But there is still, to a degree, this old model of communication that exists, and it's directly related to the culture. And that's something that I truly believe is going to transform in the FIFO industry, and it can. And that, what it'll enable people to do is to express and say, hey, actually, my performance and the manner in which I'm showing up at work is related to what's going on at home for me. But when the environment is such that we're pushed out and we push those things aside and there's judgment, these people are not sharing it. And this is what continually shows up in that space. So it takes a whole culture change for everybody in the workplace. And these are the things that they should be creating, a big sit down. Gone are the days, I truly believe, when there's the workers and management. We have to adopt a new model where it's everybody. We're all one team. Like you say, Hoggy, the great teams, you can sit down, and you've played with some of the greatest teams, literally, where you can sit down and it's an open environment where you can just share about what's coming up in the manner in which we're performing, because ultimately we're there to perform a particular role, to get whatever mineral it is, or to resource that we're trying to extract, or dig up, and to get that done in the most safe and efficient way possible, because we're there to perform, and it's about profit at the other end there. So we are in that team environment. If we can have a space there where we can communicate, hey, this isn't working on the coal face, or this isn't working here in the mine or on the site, anywhere, and we can have those conversations without people feeling undermined or criticised or being made wrong. I really believe that'll change the culture massively. It's those type of conversations that we want to be creating in that space.
So what you're saying there is the manager creates the environment where it's our team, not my team, and we all
Yeah,
own it.
100%. Yeah, they have so much impact, and there's the responsibility for leaders in the industry to take that on board, especially in the industry that the measurement is safety. So we'll see it in incidents or lost time injuries, or people not coming back to site. All of these things start to show up if there's not that freedom to be able to express themselves, and that's part of that, I believe, can be disappeared in the way in which some of our leaders definitely communicate in the industry.
So it's trying to create an environment where a person feels as though he's respected, where he's heard, and where he feels valuable. If he's in that particular environment, once he leaves, he's in a happier state of mind to be in a better place for his family when he gets home as well. So it's a roll-on effect.
Yeah, and we've got to give the respect to those leaders as well too. They're men and women, they're mothers and fathers, and all of these sorts of things. Brothers and sisters, sons and daughters as well. I mean, they're human. They don't. I'm sure they don't know everything in leadership as well, and there can be a harsh judgment to them as well. But one of the greatest things I've seen is that when you've got great leaders that can be responsible for where things are at in relation to our performance, it's the most powerful place to start. And sometimes it's about molding that environment and creating that culture where we create a type of communication that's effective. And sometimes it takes a bit of time, but like I say, there's that other side too where we can show respect and understanding to our leaders too, and the things that they go through as well.
Oh, exactly right. It goes both ways because we've all got our vulnerabilities, and if we all help each other, it will just roll on to a smoother process. What tools, as an individual, can you utilise if these environments or these cultures aren't conducive to that well-being of mental health? How can you turn it around so that you put yourself in a better space?
Yeah, look, for a lot of people that are struggling with things up there, for me, what I took to that site was a whole lot of life experience and heartbreak and divorce and that messy stuff. I was sexually abused when I was younger, physically abused, and I didn't realise the impact on my behavioural patterns or the way that I showed up in life. And so I didn't really know how to reach out. But there's employee assistance programs that are available for people to contact to be able to speak about on site. There's sometimes they have on-site people that they can talk to. I've seen a reluctance for people to engage with those because it's sort of an admission that something's wrong. I think if we can recreate how that looks and have people know that it's all right to talk to people on site, to talk through our issues is a great thing. But reaching out to people that you can talk to, a psychologist. For myself, I took on meditation. I do a whole lot of there's exercise. There's different sort of forms of modality that I try. It's about the people that you connect to. But really, when I was in that environment, what I lacked was sorting out some issues, some pressing issues that were really impacting my state of mind while I was up there. So the first thing would be to do is to reach out and talk to somebody that you can trust. And there's the opportunity in Australia for us to get a mental health care plan from any of our GPs to be able to get 6 sessions with a psychologist. And it's a great start to be able to go there. There's people that you'll work with too that are great resources to be able to share. People that are experienced in the industry is a great resource as well. And sometimes it's connecting back to your sports clubs and old mates and all of that too, Hoggy. The life with FIFO, you're away from so many people and you become disconnected to your friendships. So even connecting up with your friends and having a structure where you're catching up with people and doing things while you're back on R&R is a great structure to have too.
It brought up a really good point there. Look, cricket's a completely different thing, but being away, you get disconnected from your mates, and it does play on the back of your mind. Now, with the whole process, we've both played sport. We both had that dream of playing sport, but you've had those issues as a youngster, which were draining on your development as a person and draining on your success, whether it's in the workforce or whether it's on the sporting field. How prevalent, how important is it as a youngster to step up and say, I've got to take ownership, I've got to go and find help. I just can't be the man that I've been taught and just hold it behind? or hold it within?
Yeah, hey, it's vitally important, man. It's it's pivotal for our life direction, really. I mean, those patterns as we are when we're young really shape us and can ultimately define who we are. But why would young people put their hands up if we're not putting them up as old people? You know, so there's an opportunity for us to be an example to that, which is why we're creating these opportunities to connect and reach out and to be that example to a degree. But I would say to any young person that it is so important, and it's not a scary thing. We're better off reaching out to people and being open and having them share about the different things that you might be challenged with at this time in your mind. And as you know, Hoggy, for me, I mean, I didn't go and get those things sorted out, and the impact of sexual abuse for me and the physical abuse and the conditioning of my culture. And back in my day, it was just, you just got on with it. And especially being a boy, I mean, you just get up and don't cry, but be tough, be brave, and you sort of traverse through things. And we've been conditioned at a young age in some matters not to be able to speak to people or communicate. You just get on and get up and get on with it. But it is pivotally important for us to be able to encourage young people to reach out and to ensure that we're great examples for people reaching out to and to share our stories back for them.
So we've all been conditioned growing up. Our parents condition us, our sporting environments, our school environments all condition us. And then we get to an age where we're adults. So we've got to hold everything in. We're taught to hold everything in and just get on with life. How did you change that conditioning to put you in a better state right now with mental health? Because we still go up and down with our mental health, but you've got the better tools now. How did you change those conditions? Or that condition?
Yeah, I changed those conditions. For me, it was doing a self-development course and realizing that I'd discovered a whole lot of stuff about myself that I'd made up from the past, and it wasn't good enough, and it would just trap me inside of my mind. And as I sort of reflectively looked on the person that I was and the way that I was showing up in life, the way that I would express myself and communicate to myself, quite often I was observing a person that was me that wasn't the best form of me or who I truly wanted to be. And so I sort of started to discover that what was coming out of my mouth and what was actually present in actions didn't line up. And then I'd gotten passionate, through my struggles of the divorce and, going through the court system and seeing the impact of being separated from my kids and not being able to connect with them. I became passionate about men when I was in a men's refuge. And when I'd separated, and my passion for men came back, and it was like, hey, I'm gonna be a stand for men and a voice for men. And so I started to declare what I wanted to be and started to share my story. And what I realized in sharing the struggles that I'd been through so that others could relate to them, it really gave me my mind health was improved, and my freedom, I suppose, mentally was just sort of off the charts. I felt a whole lot freer to be able to talk about the person that I was and the things that I'd done. And some of those things I was embarrassed about. Some of those things I was, sorry about. Some of those things I was ashamed about. And some of them I was really proud too as well. We focus on the things that we're not quite often instead of the things that we are. And so for me, I found freedom in being able to reach out and to talk. And I would encourage people, hey, go and see a psychologist. Then I realized I wasn't doing it myself. So then I made the appointment with a psychologist to go and sit down. And, like I was saying in my first session, she worked out that I'd been sexually abused. And I was absolutely unaware that was evident in my life. And so I started the process. And for me now, I've got to the point where I expand on things. Like I say, with the formulas, even up there on site, I've learned for me in life, there needs to be a shifting and a changing formula. I've adopted open heart meditation lately. That's a new form that I've done. I've always spoken about it. Looking at my fitness and my eating, those are always solid things. But I really am open about the way that I am and have lots of conversations with different people that have been through things, and that really works for me.
So let's just sum up. You're able to change it around. Everyone's able to change it around. But the reason that we're in that negative mental space is because we're playing the victim. We're not owning up to our responsibilities. Would you sum it up like that?
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, some people don't know any other way but to be the way that they are. We only know to do what we do. It's our conditioning, so how do we do it any other way? For me, that's why these are so vitally important. It's great that Lifeline are doing these things. We need to encourage more of this, because through people sharing and others seeing that you can open up and share, then they have the courage to reach out and share. And this is what we want to be doing more about And there are people, you're right though, Hoggy, that recognise that they've got patterns of particular way. So there are definitely, you know, I think there's different layers to it. There are people that recognise it and are continuing not to, you know, live with integrity or to the best sort of version that they can be. And there are others that are simply impacted, you know, by things like physical abuse, they've lost loved ones, they're orphans. There's so many things that have happened to people where they just don't know how to. But if we can be an example to encourage them to reach out and to create safe spaces where people know that you can share your story, and most importantly, they can share their story and stay in the industry, because the industry is a wonderful industry to work for. It's not a, you know, a bad experience for everybody. I know it gets a lot of criticism, but it can be a lifestyle that's an incredible lifestyle for people to be able to enjoy. And that's what we want to encourage ultimately here. You know, I've got my son, my oldest son works in the FIFO industry. He's just started in a new site up in the Pilbara area. And if I thought for 1 minute that it was going to be harmful to him, or that it was going to, you know, negatively impact him in the long term, then I wouldn't have him in that environment. But that's not what I believe. My son lives with me, and I use my experience and my time up there to sit him down and to have conversations about support. I mean, he's just been flown back off site now, actually, because he's lost a loved one, a friend of his, a young friend of his, was killed in a car crash this week, and my son's come back. And I'm so grateful for the men that they have up there on that site, because the supervisor spoke to my son. He's only 19. He's a new starter up there, and he said to him, "How are you?" And my son was emotional, and he said to him, "Look, we're going to send you home, young fella." And he did reiterate to him, he said, "There are some people we want up here as workers, and there's some that we probably want to move on, but you're one of the ones that we do want up here. So you take your time to look after your well-being, connect with your family, and then you can come back up." You know, back down here, I know those things, mate, because I went through it. So I can pass that example and, you know, the knowledge that I learned about traversing through those times when you lose loved ones up there in the FIFO, and, you know, it'll ensure that my son stays there. So it's a great industry as well.
But it's up to the group itself to really build the culture and turn it around. And we're all in the same boat. The person next to you is feeling similar things. So you've got to try and help each other out and communicate. Would you agree with that before we go?
100%, man. Culture starts with us. It starts with me before it starts out there. If I can get that in my mind and look at the way that I show up with culture, that'll really transform that space.
That is absolutely perfect ending. Now, anyone out there that is feeling a little stressed and needs someone to talk to, and they feel that they can't talk to anyone, get on the Blower to Lifeline, 13 11 14. They're there to help you make tomorrow a better day. Leon, how can we get in contact with you, with your wonderful organisation there at Haka Life?
Yeah, Haka for Life is on Facebook, brother. Check us out, Haka for Life. There's our logo there. Check us out on Facebook. We're always active. We're always up for conversations there with the community and sharing stories all the time. So you'll find us. We're very, very busy on Facebook, or Haka for Life, hakaforlife.org on the internet as well too, brother.